Welcome to episode 734 of today's Antidote. I'm Bob Graham, and soon Tom Brush will join us. And we're going to talk today about receiving others' gifts, and more importantly today, how to acknowledge them. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not my strong suit. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. I'm looking forward to what I might learn. All that and more on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hello?
Yeah, I lost everything. I'm sorry about that, Tom. I don't know what's going on this morning.
Not quite sure what's going on with Bob, so we're not going to get to see his usual typical morning do-do-do-do. So
Do. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're just moving very slow. Not sure what's going on.
I don't have a clue.
We're just going to have to make the most of it. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. Each week, we have a conversation around a topic. And as Bob mentioned, this week's topic is receiving others' gifts. And then we have a specific topic for the day. Today, as Bob mentioned, is acknowledging them. So we'll dive into that. And as we do, if you have thoughts and ideas that you would like to share around our conversation, we would encourage you to share them, whether you are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or podcast. Each week, we have a conversation around a topic. And what is going on over there, Bob? Uh-oh, now we lost Bob. So Bob would normally say it as well as LinkedIn. So hopefully he'll be back with us soon. So we enjoy you sharing your thoughts and ideas because we know it'll add value to what the conversation is. And then at the end of the conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you move forward if you happen to be stuck or uncertain on how to deal with a certain issue, to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. And of course, if you have a one thing you would like to share, we welcome you to share that as well. As Stephen is greeting us this morning. Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for being a part of the show so far. Hopefully, we'll be able to see and hear Bob shortly. Not quite sure what's going on with his system today, but we'll keep moving forward until he joins us. Before we dive into our conversation, though, each morning, we share our celebrations. And so I am going to start with my celebration while we wait for Bob to continue to join us. And my celebration today will be that, yesterday I had the opportunity to have a conversation around something with my coach on Friday. And she has been really helpful in getting me a little bit more focused, a little more accountable. And yesterday I was able to, she kind of asked how my weekend went. And because I was traveling, I didn't get a chance last week to respond. So I was able to yesterday, and share a little bit about some of the things I had planned for the coming year. And it was great to be able to share that with someone else. And then she responded yesterday with some thoughts or ideas, and maybe one of the most valuable parts of it, saying that if I'd like to talk through any of those pieces, that she's happy to help and be available for that conversation to offer feedback, thoughts, ideas, or just ask questions if they might be necessary. And that opportunity is one that I truly value. Because I think so often it can be easy for us. And I was had this yesterday, stuck, trying to figure out which to do first. I had all these things and I hadn't really laid it out like that until I said, maybe if I do this, it'll help me get a little more focused on what part goes first. Because I was thinking about the marketing piece, and I was thinking about what do I need to do with my website, and what do I need to do with the landing page that people would come to get all the details and information. And I had them all open and trying to figure it out. And it clearly was becoming a challenge. And once I wrote it down, though, I was able to say, okay, what is the priority for each of these? So I'm going to celebrate today the value of a coach and the value that my coach provides to help me just get a little more focused. Because I think so often it can be easy for us to become lost in all the things that we have to do. And in some regards, just want to go off and do something completely different rather than those things that we know are the things that are going to help move us forward. So hopefully Bob will come back and he'll be able to share his celebrations. If not, we're going to keep moving along. And I'm going to dive into our conversation today. As Bob mentioned, we are talking about receiving others' gifts. And, I think so often one of the things that sometimes gets forgotten is acknowledging them. Maybe it's because we don't necessarily see them as a gift at the moment. Or maybe it's because we are so busy in all the things that we have to do. Oh, Bob, are you back?
I'm back somehow. Yes. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
Did I miss it? Did I miss LinkedIn Live, baby?
Yes, you did.
Darn it.
We moved through that fairly quickly. And I was just starting to dive in. If you would like to share a celebration, be happy to have you give your celebration.
I'm celebrating the fact that I'm back here. I was worried that I was going to miss the program. I mean, it's episode 734. How could I miss it?
I'm not sure. We were trying to figure that out. I was trying to figure that out as well.
I bet.
All right. So I just introduced briefly our topic about acknowledging others' gifts and just saying that sometimes we aren't aware of what those gifts are. We don't see them necessarily as gifts, or that we're so caught up in all the things that we have to do that sometimes we can forget to acknowledge, especially some of the simple gifts that people provide. I'm always intrigued, especially this time of year. I'm the person who loves to, like, in a busy parking lot, just say, oh, why don't you go ahead? And I'll sit and wait and allow others to go through. Or, you open the door for someone, and I'm sort of surprised that often you don't get acknowledged for that. In the car, all I need is a little, hey, thanks, I appreciate it. Usually if somebody lets me in, I'll roll my window down and wave out the window as just an acknowledgement that I appreciate the fact that they were thinking of allowing someone else something that they could have had. And so it just intrigues me. The other one is in the grocery store, because it's always crazy. And so a lot of times I'll be like, oh, go ahead. I'll wait while you rush through in your cart. And most of the time people do acknowledge the fact that you allowed them to go first. And sometimes they don't. They're just so wrapped up in what they're doing that they forget to do that, or just disregard it altogether and don't necessarily see it as a gift.
Isn't there another part of this possibly, Tom, which is in acknowledging someone else's gift, it means that we're worthy of receiving a gift? Because there are times that I feel like I don't acknowledge someone's gift to me because it's like, oh, you shouldn't have had to do that. That was really generous of you. Like, how many times have you and I talked after the program for 45 minutes or an hour? And by talk, I mean, I talk, you listen, and ask questions. How many times have we done that in the last 3 years?
A couple.
And I think almost every time I've apologized. I'm really sorry, Tom. I know I took a lot of your time. Acknowledging the gift that you're willing to give that to me is hard for me at times. And I think that's a part of this that, you may be lucky enough this year to get a holiday gift from someone who you weren't expecting a gift from. And it's like, oh, wow, I really matter to that person. Like last year, I got a gift from one of my clients. So it was really a kind gift. I wasn't expecting that. And I didn't really know what to do to acknowledge it because I wasn't really expecting it. So it caught me off guard. It showed me how much that person cared about me, how much I'd done for them. And I kind of knew it, but now it sort of put it in like concrete terms. And I think sometimes we know the gifts we offer people, and I think we know the gifts we've received from people. But this time of year, when we're dealing with the holidays, there's often a financial component to it, right? How much do I invest in this person? And the person receiving it, it's like, you shouldn't have. That was way too much money. That was way too much time. That was way too much this, that, the other thing. I know someone who knit something for someone. And it took him like a month to knit this thing for the person. And in my head, I'm going, oh, that's quite a gift. I mean, to knit for a person for a month, that's really a generous gift. I don't know if the recipient understood that. It might have been like, oh, that's really great. You knitted me a sweater. Not knowing that that person made a conscious effort every evening to find, first you got to find the yarn, you got to figure it out, you got to find the pattern, you got to start, you got to fix all the mistakes you make. That's a really generous gift. And I think the other gift that we don't always acknowledge very well is the gift of people's time. That just time, just being with the person when a person's having a hard time, just going out for a meal with someone, going to doing something for a person, someone who's sick and getting them groceries. Not a big deal usually, but to that person in that moment, it can be a huge gift. I can remember one time when I was really sick and I didn't know how I was going to cut the grass. And my father-in-law at the time came over and cut the grass. It was a huge gift. Like it took him maybe 30 minutes because we had a small property. But to me, it was one of the greatest gifts ever because I didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Well, I think that it's one of those things that we don't always have either we don't or we overplay a perspective on something.
Mm-hmm.
Like for him, that might not have been like I'm sure he didn't see that as.
He actually enjoyed it because he lived in an apartment.
Yeah, I think that's the piece that we often forget is the benefit that the other person gets from being able to share something that they have, that can help someone else. And and I think that's when we think about, well, why did you spend all this time, or we don't realize that they spent all this time. Some people don't look at that. Like the person who knit the sweater may have said, you know what, I really enjoy this. And I kind of did it when I was watching TV and, just multitasking at the same time. And it wasn't really that big, that for them, that big a deal. Now it could have been somebody who's like, yeah, I really took me a long time to do this. And I think that it's, we don't always recognize what that looks like. And we don't recognize the value that other people or the benefit that other people give when they are able to give their gifts, share their gifts, their value with others. And I think that sometimes it's the allowing of others to have the benefit of giving that makes the receiving that much more beneficial or special. And sometimes I think, I don't know, I'll see how this comes out. Sometimes I think we think we're not worthy. And
totally.
And saying that really is almost like I don't know how to phrase this, almost like putting them down for considering thinking about sharing their value. Like when you say, oh, you didn't have to do that, or you didn't, it's almost like saying that I don't want your gifts. I mean, you're doing it in a way because you don't believe you needed it or that they should have done something like that. And yet it's kind of saying, okay, don't share your gifts with me. And I think that, sometimes when we start to think about it in that regard is that, yeah, they didn't have to do that. Yet it was an opportunity for them to see the value of giving. And so rather than just saying, wow, that's super nice, I really appreciate that, it almost starts to get them thinking about, well, maybe I shouldn't be sharing my gifts.
Right. Maybe I miscalculate what this relationship is or this whatever.
Yeah. And again, they may see it as a much more significant thing than you do. And you're just like you thought about your father-in-law, about how, awesome this was. And he was just like, yeah, it just was free and I could do it and I enjoy it. And like, why wouldn't they just acknowledge it?
Right.
And then I can feel good about sharing it rather than, I think sometimes when we overplay the receiving of it or the acknowledgement of it, it makes them start to wonder, like, maybe I couldn't or shouldn't have spent all this time doing this
Right.
rather than enjoying the benefit that they receive by giving. Does that make any sense?
It does. It does. Tom, I'm going to take a little radical turn here. Stephen asks a question, asking people to help with a startup that could fail. Does that equal asking for a gift? I think that's a great question. As someone who's been asked to work on a lot of startups and none of them has succeeded so far, I can tell you I don't know if it's a gift as much as it's a calculated risk. I've never felt like it was a gift, even though I have gifts that I would provide to that organization. I didn't see it as a gift as much as I was investing in my time and talents to achieve a goal. And in most of those cases, it did not achieve that goal. What do you think, Tom?
Well, I think that it's not necessary. I think one of the things to think about is that they're not necessarily giving it to us. So it may not be a gift. It's they're sharing their value with a potential for a return.
Right.
People don't usually
That's a good
go
way of
into,
putting it.
hey, let me help you with a startup, and then I'm not looking for anything else on the other side. It's more about, here's an opportunity for sharing my value for the betterment of the whole, not just for the betterment of the individual.
Well, although sometimes we do when someone has a business idea and they get, hey, Tom, can we get together over coffee and talk about things? You and I got
Sure.
together over coffee for a number of years, never charged each other a dime, gave each other really good business advice. And I would argue that was a gift. I didn't expect any return on that other than your success. So the next time we got together for coffee or lunch, it would be like, oh, hey, that thing you told me, really, man, I'm rocking it.
Okay, that's a little different than what I thought Stephen was talking about. I thought he was talking about somebody really going in as a part of a startup.
I guess it could be both, right?
It could be.
I mean, every startup I've ever seen that's succeeded and the ones that have failed have had a whole bunch of people who have provided their gifts along the way generously.
Well, and I think
we don't do it alone.
Right. And it's about the relationship and how the relationship is set up. And I don't think it's asking for a gift. It's asking for them to share their value. Now, you could ask them to share their value and they might say, yeah, I'm willing to do that for this. I'm willing to do that if we continue to meet for coffee once in a while. And I would then see that as a gift for me because I'm the one receiving it. I don't know that we're asking them for a gift because again, I think that you're more asking them to share their value. And then the receiver, I think, and we talked a little bit about this last week, is the one, or maybe at the beginning of yesterday, I can't remember, that the receiver is sometimes the one who.
Well, for the record, Tom, we had to have talked about yesterday because that was the only day of the week, right?
Well, I think last week. Actually, I think we were talking about it.
Okay. All right.
I think we were talking about Friday Discoveries of the Week. I'm not sure. But I think that's the thing is sometimes we, the receiver is the one, I believe, who gets to think about it as a gift because they're the one who's actually judging it as the value. The rest of us just are sharing our value, I believe. That's just my thought around that.
So do you have your one thing at this point?
I actually do. I had it a little bit before as I was thinking about this.
You go. You're way ahead of me. I'm going to need one.
It's a little off the conversation path, a little bit. We touched on it a little bit.
It's not the challenges, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. You've done very well today.
I think that one of the things, and this is something that I thought about this weekend. So as I shared, I went home to play in this alumni basketball game. And one of the things that happened was one of my old teachers happened to show up. I may have shared that.
Mm-hmm.
And he came over on the bench when I was sitting on the sideline and, just wanted to chat and say hello. And one of the things that I wanted to share, but it got confusing, was a thing that he said to me one day. One day he came up, he asked me to stay after class. and he shared a thought with me about something that he had observed. And at the time, he asked me a really good question. Some of the first coaching I got, I think. And it forced me to think about something differently. And at the time, I'm not sure I saw it as a gift. I think I saw it as a sort of not being scolded, just maybe being made aware of something that I hadn't considered. And over time, I started to realize the value of that gift significantly and think about it a lot, especially more recently as I've gotten into officiating. It had to do with officiating and results of a game and things like that. And it really, I went to try to acknowledge it to him all these years later. And I started to say to him, something you said to me 40 years ago resonates with me today in a way that it didn't resonate with me at the time. And I didn't get a chance to finish. And so I'm going to write him a note and just tell him, because I think that it's something that we often, again, we don't see. And so, and I think I mentioned this at the beginning, is that we don't acknowledge it as a gift, and we don't see it, recognize it as a gift. And so it's hard for us to acknowledge the person who shared it with us. There was another situation where an alumnus, and I got thinking about all these things as I was driving home, an alumnus came back to practice with us one day. And I could just tell the difference it made when he actually focused on getting stronger and not healthier. Just he went from high school, where you don't work out a whole lot back in the day, to college, where he clearly worked out and was a very different version of himself. That was just impressive to me at the time, and I clearly remember it. And he's someone who's he went on to serve our country multiple times overseas, to the point where now he's got some real challenges. And his brother was there. I was talking to his brother a little bit about it. My parents, because he's just such a good guy, was talk to him regularly because they see him. And I was just thinking, you know what? I wanted to share that thought with him and acknowledge that he showed up to work out, so he stayed in shape when he went back to school. And I'm not sure he would even ever have thought that it may have had an impact on someone else there.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I think that's part of understanding that as results change, we may now see something as a gift that we didn't necessarily at the time. And I think we have the opportunity. I don't know that I want to go as far as the obligation, although I think it's of value, to go back and acknowledge the gift that someone gave us that they probably, again, don't even consider, may not even remember. And yet, I think it would bring a lot of value to them to hear that, to understand the impact that they had on someone just in a simple comment that they made or by their presence, and how that impacted someone who was paying attention.
I think acknowledging other people's gifts also deepens the relationship. It goes from superficial to something of value. I think for you and me, I remember we were at coffee one day early in our relationship, and one of us said to the other, "This is really useful." I think I said to you, "I really love these meetings because every time I leave, I'm motivated." And I don't know, my recollection was you said something similar to, yeah, same for me. That acknowledgement of the shared experience was really valuable for the two of us. And it also shows that you weren't wasting your time with me and I wasn't wasting my time with you. And I can tell you, your teacher from a long time ago probably shared a lot of gems of wisdom with a lot of people. The number that someone can remember of the times that actually resonated, that they could connect it, very slim. And when I've had former students of mine come back to me and say, "Hey, you said something, or you did something, or the way you acted in class really helped me see something differently," it's one of the greatest gifts in the world. It truly is. because you do these things, and so funny to me is so many of the things that I've been acknowledged for by people are not the things that I get up in the morning and say I need to do. It's the other stuff. It's the just being Bob. And for you, it's the just being Tom. And for your teacher, it was just being your teacher, not going, well, I should probably say something to Tom because this could change his life and it'll change. He'll be an official one day and this will resonate. You just do it in the moment.
Yes. And I think that, as what we find is that when we do that, and obviously it's a lot further down the road, we have the opportunity to share with that person what the relationship was, because I think that we don't always know the impact. And so we don't understand. Like, I think that this teacher would appreciate the fact that I thought this way of them and continue to think of them, and it would change maybe the impact that they felt like they've had, not only on me, but on others. If I did that, if they had this with Tom, with me, who else is out there who I, maybe had a greater impact on than I thought I did, and they just haven't come and shared it with me. And I think, all these years later, it maybe allows them to look back differently on their experience. I think the opportunity that we have now is who are those that have done it more recently, that we can go back and share those thoughts and ideas, share the value that we received, the gift that we received from them. We saw it as a gift, and that they then might in turn share their value more often so that others have a chance to be impacted. I think sometimes in my teacher example, he may have shared that and never noticed the difference. And so may have been like, well, if Tom wasn't going to pay attention to this, maybe someone else wouldn't as well. So maybe I won't share it. Maybe if it wasn't of his value and he didn't see the value of what I was sharing, I might not do that the next time with someone else, and sort of what a shame that would be, is if we stopped sharing our value because we didn't think that it was not only received and acknowledged. And I guess that's why I feel like we need to continue to share our value, whether we are acknowledged for it or not, because those who we share it with, likely the results will change like they did for me. And they may or may not come back and acknowledge them. And I would offer that this is a great time of year to think about who are those people who shared their value with you a long time ago that you have since started to realize the value of, and go back and acknowledge them for it.
Oh, that's a long list. I'll be very busy if I do that.
Well, and maybe it's just think about what it would be like even if you did it for one person. And maybe tomorrow you did it for another. Or I think there's the other option, is that maybe when others share their value with us, whether the immediate results are what we thought or not, we acknowledge them for sharing them. We say, even if it's a small, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I'd like to take some time to think about the impact that has on what's real for me. And I may not remember to come back and acknowledge you for it. And still, I want to acknowledge it now that you took the time to share with you. We don't have to thank them because it may or may not add the value that we have. I think we at least acknowledge it. So often, sadly, when others share their value with us, if it doesn't resonate with us right away, we tend to defend. We judge it, defend ourselves. I could have very easily said to my teacher, "You're crazy. Everybody does it. I was just doing what everybody does. Not that big a deal." And I may have watched people continue to model that behavior since. So why do you care? I mean, that clearly could have sent a very different message.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've covered a lot of heavy ground today.
Did you share your one thing?
I did. I did.
Right.
I did. But I want to say, Tom, it's a national day that we need to recognize.
Oh, goodness. What do we got today?
It's Go Caroling Day.
Go Caroling Day.
Yes.
Have you ever caroled?
I have. I really enjoy it. One of my favorite is "Here We Go Wassailing Away." I have no idea what that means. I used to sing that with some neighbors, and the kids next door would always go, "We don't know either." And I'd come up with other crazy words. I have no idea what wassailing is. I really should look it up.
It's funny that you pretty much said waffling. And after your story about the Waffle House the other day, I'm like,
no, wassailing.
Correct. And then
Yeah.
yet waffle came out, and you're clearly thinking about waffles. So maybe
Who isn't?
Maybe you need to think about a visit to the Waffle House.
Waffles are the best part. Is I go to the Waffle House almost every week. I rarely get a waffle. I know.
What do you get?
I like their hash browns, extra crispy.
Fair.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And all you get is hash browns? You don't
What's
get
that?
pancakes or eggs or something else?
Usually I get sausage patties.
Okay.
And a double order of hash browns with ham and tomato in them, cooked extra crispy.
A lot of grease there.
Amen.
Fair enough. All right, everyone. If you have your one thing, your antidote that you'd like to share, please feel free to share it in the comments. If you're listening to a podcast, we know that there's not an opportunity to do that, or you just choose not to share it in the comments here. You are welcome to come to one of our two groups. If you're a LinkedIn person, go to the Renegade Success Network for Leaders. If you are a Facebook person, join us in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where you can share your thoughts and ideas there with other renegades who are often looking for a way to take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. And you might have the exact antidote that they are looking for. And while you're there, you may find your antidote that'll help you figure out how to move forward. So we look forward to seeing you inside of those groups. If not, we will see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegade of you, figure out what wassailing is, and go Carol.
Go Carol. I like that.
You could be giving someone a gift. Even the worst singer. Nothing. I can tell you, I've caroled in my neighborhood before, and going up to houses that the people don't get out much at this time of year can make a huge difference. They'll come out on the porch. I remember distinctly 10 or 12 years ago, a woman coming out on the porch and singing with all the gusto you can imagine. A person that I had never seen, never interacted with. And it was so much fun just to, she's like, "You have the most beautiful voices." We didn't sound that good, but to her, that unexpected sound of people caroling outside your door.
Correct. She wasn't judging the way you sounded. She
was not. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. And
even if you think that it's not a gift, don't judge that. Just share your value. Let someone else decide.
They told me, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum.
Clearly, you need to go caroling tonight.
Me and my drum.
Yes. All right, everyone. Go caroling, or go acknowledge somebody for a gift that they shared with the value they shared with you,
or both.
You could do it at the same time.
That's it.
Either way, go out and make it a great day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.
Do you hear what I hear?
Oh boy.